You may not have noticed on Saturday if you were watching the big games, but Kentucky's in the win column and rather easily with a 30-point win over Ball State of the MAC. They got Eastern Kentucky coming up, so a little in-state work to do there. Of course, they're preparing for the SEC season, so it's important to see some development. And we got Kevin McGuffey, our guy for Kentucky football. You can catch him on Last Word on College Football. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. Always great to be on with you. And of course, unfortunately, if you're a Spectrum customer, then you probably didn't get to watch anything this weekend. So that made it a little more difficult as have been a customer. So made it a little more difficult trying to find a way to watch the game and do a recap on it. But we managed to get it done. So that whole thing, I know you probably don't want to get into that. It's a mess. It's unfortunate, but anyway,
it is a mess. I posted about it on Twitter and Facebook, and I got to say, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to make all these SEC and ACC fans Big Ten fans because they're unaffected by it now, having just exclusively Fox, CBS, NBC? But yes, nobody could watch the games, starting with Florida and Utah. The first guy I'll ask you about, Kevin, would be Devin Leary, because, of course, he's the guy that makes it all work and is the guy that is the incoming transfer from NC State, who had such a huge year, 35 touchdowns, 5 picks 2 years ago. So how did he look?
I think it was kind of a mixed bag. He wasn't overly, wasn't too excited about his performance. And Liam Cohen, they were all not as excited as we all thought they were going to be. I don't know. He was playing his first game in almost a year because he got injured at the beginning of October last year. So at parts of the game he looked kind of rusty, I think. But overall, if you look at the stats, 18 out of 31, 241 yards, had a touchdown interception. He did have one stretch in the second half where he completed 8 straight passes, but then there was a stretch in the first half where he had 4 straight incompletions. So I think it's a work in progress still. I think you'll see an even better improvement. I think you'll see more improvement this week against Eastern Kentucky, and hopefully for all the Big Blue Nation that he'll just continue to improve. Get more familiar with the offense, actually in a game situation as opposed to practice. But he didn't. It wasn't awful, but everyone thought that it could have been better, and that was kind of Mark Stoops, not just with the offense. Even though they won by 30, I think the phrase that Mark Stoops used after the game was he was surly. So head coaches are never happy anyway. But unless you're like Oregon and you won 81-0 or whatever that was. But like I said, for first game back in almost a year, Leary did some good things, and I think it's only going to get better from here.
Now, the most important news from the game, unfortunately, was negative news that Captain Kenneth Horsey was lost for the season.
Well, actually, they just posted yesterday, or as before we're talking, that he may only miss a couple of weeks now. So it may not be a season-ending injury. I will double check that, but that's what I saw the morning that we're talking about this, that he may only be out for a couple of weeks. But yeah, if he if it is for a longer period of time, then it definitely will be some issues, despite the reworked offensive line that Kentucky through the transfer portal and everything. So, but let's see. Like I said, I'm just going to go check on. Like I said, the last post I see is that he'll only be out for a couple of weeks, but not the entire year. So that's obviously a best case scenario for Kentucky fans. That was a couple of posts I saw on. I still call it Twitter. You can call it X, whatever you want to call it.
So the other name that stands out to me to check on the transfer guys and how quickly they've acclimated is, of course, Ray Davis coming in from Vandy, who put up over 100 yards. Kentucky knows about putting up 100 yards on their defense, playing for the Commodores. So he does it for the good guys and scores a couple touchdowns. So
Yep.
He obviously, at least as of game one, with only 4 carries going to another running back in Chetan McLean.
Right.
So Ray Davis is the guy.
Yeah, that was another thing that was very interesting, I thought, because before the game, and even you and I talked about before the season started, how Kentucky had 4 or 5 running backs that they thought they were going to use. Davis would probably be your RB1, I guess, for lack of a better term, but then everyone else would get some reps as well. But if you look at it, I just said, Davis ran for 14, only ran the ball 14 times, but had an 8-yard per average carry with 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then McLean was the only person that got any time on the field. And another thing I think that Stoops was upset about, if you look at the stats, Ball State held the ball for almost 39 minutes on Saturday, so for like 2/3 of the game. So Kentucky's offense was only on the field like 20 minutes, and of course they had one defensive touchdown where Jalen Geiger picked up a fumble, ran it back for a touchdown, and then should have had another one, but it was blown. Horrible call was blown dead, and Kentucky could have really had 2 defensive touchdowns on Saturday. But to your point, yeah, Ray Davis looked really, really good. Looked really, really good on Saturday.
41 carries for Ball State for 72 yards. Now, that, of course, includes sack yardage, so it wasn't quite that dominant, but still, Ball State certainly couldn't run the ball, so that's a good sign going forward.
Right. And then Ball State actually, they started the game with Lane Hatcher, who had been was their starter. They pulled him at the break and brought in a backup, Caden Samanza, and he did pretty well actually. 15 to 21 for 165 yards and a touchdown. He actually had better success against the UK defense than the original starter did. But yeah, overall, another really strong effort for I thought by the defense. You look at Trevin Wallace; he had 12 tackles and a 2 for a loss and a half sack. I believe he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, if I'm not mistaken. Alex Safari had 8 tackles, 1 for a loss, or 1.5 for a loss, and you go down the line there. So I thought Brad White's defense was really good last year, and you and I talked about it before the season. Thought they're going to be really, really good this year, and we're only going on one game, but still, it was a really good effort, I thought, by the defense as well.
Talk about going on one game, Kevin. Cincinnati, of course, has been a really good team for 4 or 5 years under Luke Fickell. He moves on. They're not supposed to be anything close. We shall see them play out the season, but they're not supposed to be projected to be anything close to what they've been. And they get a hold of Eastern Kentucky, and it's 66-13. So I'm guessing Kentucky fans are expecting a big number this week.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. I honestly was very surprised by that score. I didn't think, Eastern went, I can't remember, 7-5, 8-5 last season, made the FCS playoffs. They have a lot of their guys back. I saw that score. I was very surprised, but Kentucky, sometimes, we're talking about it in the history of this rivalry. Kentucky's never lost, obviously. They're 5-0, but the last 2 times they've met, Eastern Kentucky has led the game late in the second half. The last time they met was, I believe it was 2017. Let me get my notes here. 2017, Eastern led 16-10 late in the third quarter. Kentucky rallied for 27-16 win. And then they played 2 years before that. Eastern was up 27-13 with 5 minutes to go in the game, and Kentucky had a miracle comeback and ended up winning 34-27 in overtime. So on paper, you would think this is one of those games where you get out to a big lead, kind of like what Cincinnati did, and then you get your second, I won't call them second stringers, but the reserves, you get them some reps and some, in-game action. So that's what everybody in the Big Blue Nation is hoping for this weekend. It's kind of interesting. You and I were talking about this before we went on the air. There's a lot of UK flavor, for lack of a better term, with Eastern Kentucky. Walt Wells, their head coach, he was a quality control aide for Kentucky for a couple years under Stoops. Their quarterbacks coach is Maxwell Smith. He was UK's quarterback when Mark Stoops started at Kentucky. He was there from 2011 to 2013. And then CJ Conrad, who had a great career at Kentucky as a tight end, who had been working on Kentucky staff for the last couple of years. He's coaching at Eastern Kentucky now. So there's going to be a lot of familiar faces on the EKU sideline this weekend. So like I said, I haven't started a deep dive into the like a prediction or anything, but I think Kentucky should win at least by 5 touchdowns. Hey, Cincinnati can win by 53. So, maybe like a 49-10, 49-14, something like that. That's kind of what I'm going to just off the top of my head predicting for Saturday. So,
well, it is going to get serious here soon enough by the end of September. So, but for right now, Kentucky racking up the wins, and they should a second time coming up this Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time at Kroger Field. Kevin McGuffey, last word on college football. Definitely check out Kevin's work right there. Kevin, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Like I said, come over, check out the site. We've got, I don't know, close to 30 teams now, I think we're covering. And then I'll also do some bowl projections, which you guys, I've talked about. The newest ones will come out tomorrow after week 1. Had to last night, Monday night's games, the Duke Clemson game, had to do some rearranging of some teams in the ACC. Not so much how Duke won, but how badly Clemson looked, basically. So, because the original thing, I had Clemson playing in the Orange Bowl, but I don't have that now. So I'll tell you that. But again, it's only week 1. Clemson might win the next 11. Who knows? But that game with Florida State here in a couple of weeks is going to be very interesting. So.
All right, Kevin. Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.